Hey everybody, it's Mike Capera with podcastcondition.com. We're doing the 105th episode, 105 of What You Drinking. Here with Dan. Dan, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. How are you doing? I'm still kind of drying out a little from Saturday, but otherwise okay.
Yeah, we've got some fest talk to talk about, or at least for me to listen to, since you were the one at the fest, not me.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But
man, your barley wine, I know what you've got there, and it's not surprising to me that there's no head, but look at the difference between the two of us.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and actually this one is incredibly dark on top of it all. I'm not used to barley wines being that dark. They're usually more of a kind of caramel color, but that's getting like I wouldn't say stout-like, but maybe like brown ale porterish in terms of the SRM.
So, Jean-Pierre, how you doing?
Hey guys, been a while. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. We just got it started, so you're right on time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me go get my beer. It's not going to be a fancy beer, but like you said, it doesn't matter. So
nope, it never does.
Stand by.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. So talk about what you got there, Dan.
Okay. Well, I got the and this is kind of a continuation of the bus to and from the fest this weekend. I got the Bourbon County Stout. This is the 2013 Bourbon County Stout barley wine, or Bourbon County barley wine, rather, not Bourbon County Stout. So this was the inaugural year. This was 2013, and
have you really been doing the Bourbon County barley wine that long? I thought it was only. Oh yeah, it's 2 years. You're right. That makes sense.
So this will be the third year coming out this year. My God, and this is just like I said before, really. You can kind of see light through it, but it's getting really close to being a porter.
It looks like a stout to me.
Yeah, I mean, it almost does. I mean, if you look at it on this side, and you can see light through it, whereas with a stout, you wouldn't be able to see light at the edges, most of them at least.
He missed what it is. It's a Bourbon County barley wine. It's
okay.
The Goose Island. They released it along with the Bourbon County Stout. So it's been aged. So what's the ABV on that, and what's the story behind it? Because I think the second time they released it, wasn't that the ones that they did in like 4-packs, or was it always bombers both years?
No, it was always 4-packs both. Wait a minute, was it? I think it was 4-packs last year as well. No, it's 12.1% ABV, so it's a big boy. And 2 years ago they decided to really start expanding the product line of barrel-aged beverages that they put out. And so Bourbon County Barley Wine was really the first non-stout that they decided to put out in 2013, and this was from that year. Back then, Binny's was handing out basically 2. You could get 2 of these, but you could only get 1 of the coffee. And arguably, this is maybe the better one to land at this point, because the coffee will fade off on the coffee, but the barley wines just keep getting better with age. So
yeah, I've heard that one's really, really good. I think Kevin had that in the past and has said that one's a really good one.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish up. I was going to say what I liked in terms of the stouts, but go ahead, finish. Dan.
Oh, okay. No, I was going to say is that right up front, I mean, you're smelling. The nose is just fantastic. It's got a little bit of bourbon, and it's not a huge hit of bourbon on the nose, but a lot of toffee, a lot of like figs, and maybe some raisins and plums, and it's just it's got a really delicious kind of fruity nose right off the bat.
So barley wine, I guess the style, would it be considered more of a Doppelbock, I guess, or am I wrong?
No, Doppelbock is a lager style. Okay. Barley wine is an ale style. Okay. It's similar in the sense that I think you're thinking of like the Sam Adams Doppelbocks when they're putting them out, about 10, 15 years ago, and they really kind of started up this trend, because really in a way they were the ones that, at least on the American end of the brewery scene, were starting up these ageable beers. So yeah, in that sense, it is similar in that they're both built to age, but this is really a completely different style in terms of the flavors you get off of it.
Right.
And it's just, oh my God.
Right. What's the ABV on this, and what's the ABV on that beer?
It's 12%, 12.1.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think after this, sit down, don't do anything else.
Yeah, except he was already drinking like a 17% beer earlier today.
Oh yeah, but that was a 4 ounce pour. I was not going to. No, that was actually a reasonable amount of beer at that ABV. But
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I really like stouts. I've had the Legantis, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, their Imperial Stout a lot lately. I like the Great Divide. If
Hmm.
I'm pronouncing it, Yeti, their
Hmm.
stout, and then Southern Tier has a double 2X double milk stout. I've always been a big stout drinker. My dad, and the first stout he ever gave me, of course, the original that was Guinness. When I turned 18. As
Right.
a and So I've always been very partial towards as stouts as me. Kind of the way they make it, the fullness of the beer. You get a hint of the chocolate and very sort of a very roasty, like you're drinking coffee, but it
Hmm.
doesn't have, but it's not coffee, but you just have a little hints of it. And I've always liked those beers a lot, and in particularly around the holidays, going to Christmas, New Year's, that's kind of the beers I tend to get a lot.
No, and this is similar in that this is really very much a kind of Christmas holiday. I mean, barley wines, generally speaking, they're strong ales. They're all very few of them start anywhere south of like 8-9% alcohol by volume. So they're big beers. They tend to be a lot. They're not roasty, so like the stouts. They tend to be a little sweeter. They tend to be more. I don't know if caramel is the right way. Really, very much sort of
Will have
dried.
caramely backgrounds to it.
Yeah, I mean this definitely has some caramel and toffee to it, but a lot more of it is sort of there's a fruitiness to it, especially in the English styles.
Right.
The American styles you get more hops in the mix, and this tastes like it's more going for the English version because it's definitely not a hoppy beer. So
And
I
historically, a lot of barley wines are actually aged before they're released, so that that tends to be a little bit opposite of what's going on now. But like you'll
Mhm.
take those and they can be 12%, 13%. The one I've got here is 9.2, so it's not as high.
Right.
But yeah, they're good aging beers, so that you can put them in the closet and age them for a while. So that one,
It just seems that these beers are very popular. I've seen a lot of reviews on a lot of these styles of beer on YouTube, even the IPAs and even some of the um, you know there's just that there's been such a huge rush for these styles of beers, particularly the barrel aged ones. And I've seen. I'm like very surprised by it. But I guess it's the new thing. I guess so.
It's definitely a thing. I mean, Goose Island was the first one to start it, and they really kind of piloted the program back in 1993 with Bourbon County Brand Stout. So that was pretty well. That's over 20 years ago, I guess.
Right.
and I actually know there's a documentary being made right now on Bourbon County Stout. There's one of the Goose Island employees. He's also the guy that he co-hosts the Hopcast YouTube show. They do a lot of beer reviews and stuff. His name's Ken Huntemeter. He's been talking a lot on Facebook and Twitter about working on the documentary for it. So I'm interested to see when that comes out because I'd love to
No.
hear all the history behind that.
I would have never thought in my this little convenience store right down the street from me. One day I walked in, I was just blew my mind, but I never thought this place would actually sell it. But I actually saw a Goose Island IPA there at that store, and I just kind of blew my mind and said, "Wow." You
Really?
know, yeah, exactly, because it's a convenience store that sells your typical
Hmm.
macro lagers, the Bud Ices and all the malt liquors and whatnot. And then when I went in and I saw they had a Goose Island IPA and also they had the what's the other one? Kona, I think it is sort of the longboard that
Oh
little sort of
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that's
from
Kona.
Hawaii.
that
Yeah.
beer from Hawaii, whatever it was, which is bought by Anheuser-Busch InBev. And I saw that, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So
That's why you're seeing them all.
They're moving in.
and moving in, which is great, which is great because I just feel that people, particularly in the area I live in, I always say, guys, look, there's other beers out there that y'all. I'm not saying forcing you to like it, but just try it. Give it a shot and tell me what you think. And you'll see that, hey, there's a lot of different varieties out there. They're just as good as, the traditional stuff that we've been buying forever,
Yeah.
So what are you drinking right now?
I just did a review with the guys, with Ronald Terrell, and I had one more bottle left of this, and that's the Dos Equis Triple X, Ambar, just now. And this is my last bottle I'm having, and this is my third beer of the day, and it's well deserved. I had a long day, and I just did the lawn, and I really needed this. So this is my last, and I'm really savoring now. I really like this a lot, and I will probably get this again. I know there are other ambers out there, Michelob Amber Bock, which is good, and of course Yuengling, despite what people may feel about, the brewery, but they're traditional lager. But this is, I would say, I think I prefer this over the other two. It's very well done, 4.7% ABV, nice color, a lot of lacing on this, and a lot of flavor, more so than the other two beers. So I really enjoying this a lot. So
nice.
The reason I picked the one I've got here is two reasons actually. The first one is I was going for a different barley wine because I've had it before. The barley wine by Perennial is quite amazing. I had it probably like 7 or 8 months ago, and it blew my socks off, and I really wanted to grab it again, but unfortunately I went to the Binny's by my house is not that great. So I ventured off to the location, Dan, that you and I went and picked up Bourbon County Stout on Black Friday. I don't want to say it out loud because I was very disappointed with their beer selection. I remember them being a lot better, and one, they don't even carry Perennial. He's like, it doesn't sell here. So we don't carry it. And this is one of the only 2 barley wines that they even had in the store. I couldn't even find any others. Whereas I see them quite a bit these days. I mean, everyone's got a barley wine. But the Binny's in Highland Park, I still have to say if it's in the suburbs, that's the best way to go if you're not in the city in Chicago. But this is another reason I got this is another. It's kind of, I think if I can remember correctly, this is the first barley wine I've ever had in my entire life. So, what's up, baby?
Let me see the bottle again. Let me see the bottle.
This is the Avery Hog Heaven.
Okay. And who's the brewery? Who makes it?
This is Avery out of Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, Avery Brewery. Okay.
Yeah, see the little A down there? It's the logo.
Okay.
So this is a 9.2% ABV. It's pretty high up there in the IBUs, 104, which I've heard. Once you get to 100, you're not really tasting much of a hoppiness, past that at this point. But this is a dry hop barley wine, and so it's not as high in the ABVs as some of the others. But man, this one's really good. I almost want to say it's done in an English style. It kind of has that smell to it.
Okay.
Are IBUs important in beers?
It's a measurement of hoppiness. It stands for International Bittering Units.
Okay.
So when you see that in a higher, anything around the 50 or 60, you've got yourself a pretty hoppy beer. And then once you're climbing above that, you're probably in your double IPAs and stuff like that. I don't know, Dan. Would you say that's pretty accurate? You're more of the home brewer than I am.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some variability, but definitely pretty much spot on. I think once if you're looking at things like your ambers and your blondes and so forth, you're probably talking about 35 IBUs or lower for the most part. You creep up into the pales, and that's kind of in between your IPAs, and that's when you're getting up into the 40s and higher 30s. And then, like Mike said, once you start getting 50, 60 is IPA, and then above that is Imperial IPA, territory, and then you're getting like your red IPAs or Imperial Reds and Imperial Browns and all that stuff too. So.
Yeah, speaking of Imperial Red, I had a really good beer yesterday. I don't know if it was considered an Imperial Red. Let me go into my Untapped and look at what I had here. It's actually in Untapped. It's considered an American IPA, but they refer to it as a red IPA.
Mm-hmm.
On the menu.
Okay.
But this is the what I had was the Three Floyds Panther Transformation.
I think I had that.
I had never had that one before. It was awesome. I had it at Kuma's when I went out for dinner last night. Got myself a Led Zeppelin burger. Which
Nice.
Sounds good.
Rock and roll.
If you guys are ever in the mood to just like peruse a really good menu and you're planning on coming to Chicago, there's a few locations now. This place called Kuma's Corner, and it's more of a metal, heavy metal kind of a place. They're always blasting their music, and but all the burgers are named after either metal bands or rock bands, and they do like a burger of the month kind of a thing. But the Led Zeppelin burger is a huge cheeseburger with bacon, with barbecue pulled pork on top of that, all served on a pretzel roll.
Oh man!
It's one of those type of burgers you can eat for 2 days. Half of it today, the other half tomorrow.
What I have for breakfast, I had a small bowl of cereal, and for lunch, I had a salad, and for the rest of the day, I was just starving myself, waiting for that burger.
There you go.
It was delicious. What's up, Skylar? How you doing?
Doing all right. How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
How you been feeling?
Under the weather, but dealing with it.
Oh, that stinks. I thought you were feeling a little bit better last week. You taking a turn for the worse, or just taking it pretty well?
It's like a roller coaster, man. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me.
Well, don't forget to get the sound effects machine pulled up earlier than you did last week, because that was quite the hit.
Yeah. I'll do it right now. What's everybody drinking? I missed it.
I'll let everyone go before me. Go ahead, Dan. Let's go.
Okay. I got the 2013 Bourbon County Barleywine.
Oh, you bastard.
Yeah,
That's exactly the word I used when I said that.
But I did. You guys might be using it for different reasons. It's like, yeah, Skylar's like,
damn fine barley wine. I have had it before, and it's, yeah.
Oh my god. Well, and this is the first year they put it out too. So yeah, they nailed it right from the start. I can verify that. So next.
Yeah, I had tonight. I know it's not the same beer everybody's drinking, but I had a Dos Equis Ambar. Very well made beer to me. 4.7 ABV, and very enjoyable. Love the color of it. A lot of lacing, and I got one more in my cooler in my car, which I got beer with my guys when we get off work. We'll have a little beer or whatever, just whatever, and whatever I could, I get, or some of the guys help me contribute, whatever. We put something, at the end of the day, we'll just BS and just talk, and we have beer. But I have one more bottle of this, and I'm probably going to save that for tomorrow. So.
Cheers to that, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm doing the Avery Hog Heaven. I believe like I said earlier, the first barley wine I probably ever had as a nice youngling beer fan, just starting out trying into new styles. So I think this is the first time I ever had a barley wine. Still solid, man. I like this one a lot. Barley wine is probably one of my favorite styles, and I'm really liking the barrel aged ones though. So those have been kind of taken over. So it's not like this is missing anything, but it's that little notch up with the wood flavors and any sort of booze that might come from it is a nice step up from this. But this is a pretty good staple. What do you got there, Skylar?
I looked through my box of barley wines, and I decided I wanted to try something I've never tried before. It's a 2012 Pike Old Body. And I've had a few things from the Pike before, but I've never had their barley wine. It's really smooth. Of course, it is a 2012, but it's kind of on the lower end at 9.9% alcohol for a barley wine, at least.
Right.
but very, very smooth. Kind of like what Mike was saying. I've been really enjoying the barrel-aged barley wines, but this is just a really deceptively easy drinking barley wine for me.
Mm.
Where's that brewery from? Is it local?
They're in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and they don't distribute down here, I believe. I'm pretty sure I picked this up somewhere on my travels, and I've been saving it for forever.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I got a couple Sukabas sitting in the closet from the past few years. So I was contemplating putting one of those up into the fridge, but I was just asking my wife about an hour ago, asking her, what we should put in the fridge to celebrate when we get home with our daughter once she's born, because it could be any minute now, and we haven't decided what's going to happen. But I wouldn't mind opening one of those, because that's a solid beer.
Got to do something.
How close are you guys right now? How in terms of the baby? Almost there, on the way?
Yeah, we're week 37, so she's only less than 3 weeks left before she's full term, and so I'll have a baby in less than a month, which is scary to think.
Wow.
Brace for it, baby.
Congratulations, my friend. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
So yeah, that's why it's funny too, because I'm like cut down to like one. I'm kind of tipping over the fence this evening with my 9.4% or 9.2% beer, but bomber as well. But I've been kind of having to limit myself to one beer a night in case I have to have an emergency drive to the hospital at any point in time.
Yeah.
So. Right.
Hey guys, real quick question I want to ask y'all. Do y'all with growlers? Do you think you're saving money with a growler versus going to whatever craft beer or whatever store you get your beers from? I got this big glass bottle. I can get a growler of whatever my favorite beer, and I'll save me money than buying the 6-pack or the 12-pack or whatever, or that bomber. What's your thoughts on that?
I'll let the brewers talk. I have my opinions, but I'll let you guys say what you got.
I would say, and I've analyzed this. I've done the math. It depends on where you go.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
not just within state, but just one place versus another place. You're always, of course, going to have the best deal if you already have the growler. Buying the growler outright along with the beer, no, it's not a great deal. But if it's a growler you could reuse, and again, this is state to state law. Some states you have to have that place's growler to fill it there, and no one else can fill that. Other states, if you have a growler, any place will fill it regardless of what it says on the growler. So if you're in one of those states where you could just have a blank growler and get it filled wherever the hell you want, that is fantastic, and go for it. But even around me, I've got one place where getting the growler filled, it seems like it's about the same as if you were to go out and get like a 6-pack of the same beer.
Right.
But then down the street, there's another place you can get growlers where you're getting a huge savings. And it just depends on how the place prices their growler fills, because they can really make a lot of money if they want to, or they could go for giving their customers a cost savings. It just depends.
No, and I'd say that the bigger issue when it comes to growlers versus bottles is really storage and freshness. I mean, the one thing, unless you have a special CO2, attachment for a growler head, to keep your beer pressurized, you're going to look at CO2 loss and just possible oxidation problems with beer. So
that was kind of my concern, because I don't have anything I can store it in except a refrigerator, whatever, and it's like I'm going to lose a lot of that, what I want in that beer, that sort of flavor, that taste, if I bought a 6-pack of a bottle or can of that particular beer. So it's like, I don't know, because there's 2 places in my area here in Alabama, in the Mobile area. There's one across the bay out in Daphne, southern Napa, where they, they have like taps, whatever, and you can go fill up. In another place here in Mobile, College Hill Package Store, same thing. That's my big concern. Freshness, losing the loss of oxygen, the loss of sort of the pressurization of the beer. Am I going to lose that? And I keep opening it up, pouring some, closing it, opening it up.
Well, I mean, where you're looking at it is that if you're gonna have all of that growler in a day, you're fine. And even if you wait a couple of days to open that growler and start in on it, you'll still be fine. So once you start getting out, about 4 days, 5 days, you start really noticing a drop off, at least in certain styles. Some probably hold together better than others of the carbonation. Because I remember, like, Mike had a party, what was it, like last fall?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a growler, or a howler, which is a half growler, in my refrigerator that had been in there for about a week. And they usually say that a week, week 10 days should be fine. It was not at its best. I mean, it had definitely gone flatter. It was still had some fizz to it, but it was not where it had been before. So, really ideally, you drink it fresh. Is what it comes
That's
down
another
to.
thing to consider because along with the different places at different prices, there are a lot of different ways that places can fill growlers. And depending on how they fill it is going to depend on how fresh it's going to stay for longer. So if they're pricing it higher because they're using, say, probably one of the more advanced systems is a vacuum chamber, and the growler is actually filled in a vacuum chamber where there's absolutely no oxygen.
They pump in like CO2, right? They get all the oxygen out and pump in CO2.
Right.
Yeah.
In that case, that growler is just as good as a bottle that's been bottled, and you can keep it for years and years and years, and it'll stay good, until you open it. That's the thing is, if it's a place that they just hook up something to their tap, pour it, and then cap on top of the CO2, yeah, you're looking at about maybe a few days to a week that you want to open it. But if they've got a professional growler bottling system of some sort, you can expect longer results.
I would also say it depends on the style of growler too, because I've got many different versions. So if you're in an area that will fill any growler, no matter what the name is on it, you're in a good position to be able to kind of get yourself a nice growler. There's one that I've got that's it's a stainless steel growler that's got a flip top that clamps down. I also have a glass one that clamps down as well, and those are going to keep the best, in my opinion. That has always been the case for me because they just hold it all in, and there's not, it's very hard. There's a rubber seal on them that keeps it nice and fresh inside for a lot longer. So my question to you, Skylar, I know you've had some experience with one of those CO2 toppers to kind of tap and preserve the growlers. I've only used mine once, and I did it with a beer that I was even told before I filled the growler, this goes in a day. It was a stout from a local brewery here in the suburbs where we live. And it went pretty quickly, so probably wasn't the best to experiment with, and I should probably try it with a beer that I'm really familiar with at a brewery that I have the beer all the time to kind of gauge it a little bit better. But do those things actually work? I mean, has it performed well for you at all, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it depends on how your growler's being filled. If it's a situation where they say, yeah, you better drink this quickly, what you could do is immediately take off the cap that they've given you and put on your CO2 capper, and then purge the oxygen out of the bottle and put in CO2, and boom, you've got keg quality beer. Then again, there's the chance of over-carbonating the beer with growler designs like that, where you're injecting more CO2. So
I think that's where the problem I had was because I was getting a lot of foam after I tried to purge all the oxygen out, and it was kind of a messy disaster in my opinion.
Yeah. What I usually do, what I think works best for me, is the first time you open the growler, just open it normally with the cap they give you, And then, of course, as soon as you open a growler, boom, oxidation. Oxidation is the enemy of beer. Oxygen is bad. You want to replace oxygen with CO2. So as soon as you open it and you've poured every body of beer and you have a little bit left, that's when you cap it with your CO2. Purge it with CO2, let the oxygen out. More CO2, let oxygen out. We do this professionally in kegs with a closed system if you're using a standard Sankey connection. But even home brewers using, say, a corny keg, like a soda keg.
There's that little pull tab, right?
Yeah, with the ball locks on it. It's always good practice to put on your CO2 tank as soon as you've kegged it, pull your pressure release valve, let that oxygen out, and let the CO2 in. And you're just preserving the beer by making sure there's no contact with oxygen.
Right. So, and to kind of go back to whether it's worth it money-wise, there's a lot of things to consider. Definitely what Skylar said about whether it's a new growler purchase or if it's one that you're getting refilled, because you're always getting a couple bucks off the refill. Right. But it depends on the beer, because if it's a special release, sometimes breweries won't even release it any other way anyways. So then either way, you've got no choice. But like, Half Acre does a lot of releases. Well, they'll do it in a bomber, 22-ounce bomber, or a growler fill. Well, you're getting about 5 beers out of that growler. It's 64 ounces. Whereas you get a bomber for like $8 to $10, you're getting the growler refill for maybe like $10 usually at some places. So you're getting a lot more if you've got those options. And then if you can just consider having 2 pints at the brewery, they're usually about $5 to $6 a piece. You're already paying $10, $12. So taking a growler home is sometimes worth it there too. So I mean, it's all depending on the situation. But
or if you're gonna use it, let's just say, let's just say for a special occasion, like to say Thanksgiving dinner or maybe Christmas dinner, you have the growler, you have a Pacific beer. Hopefully that beer will be gone by the end of the night, Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, and then you're done with it. You don't have to savor it and keep it stored in some location. This will be a one and done, and
growlers are great for sharing situations.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
See, and that's what I would say the final word is growlers depend on the situation. For me, there are 2 situations. One, I want a growler because this beer is so awesome, I want to share it with a bunch of people, and that growler is going to be gone as soon as you open it.
Yeah.
Right.
Number 2, the situation would be I'm in like another state, like say Colorado, and I've encountered a beer that's so damn awesome and they don't make bottles of it. I'm going to fill that growler, take it home, and open it and take little sips from it, and that's when I use my growl tap to save and, just sip off of that for months and enjoy that beer.
Gotcha.
Agreed. I think we've explored the topics of growlers the last couple of weeks now. So, now, can you repeat the growler laws in Texas then again, Skylar? Because I thought that they weren't allowed, but it sounds like, is it just proprietary labels? That's the only way that you can do it?
Oh, Texas and our ever-changing laws. Growlers are now legal, yes. Right now it's all about crowlers, and that is apparently illegal, but no one knew it until our alcohol board said no. And so everyone has all these crowler stations that in the next couple days have to be shut down because they're saying it's repackaging of a product. But that's a really broad thing because you could consider filling a growler repackaging of a product. So we are constantly trying to fight for better growler laws and ways to take beer out of a manufacturing site. But yeah, right now growlers are legal as long as it's either from a brew pub. It's illegal from a brewery, but if that brewery converts to a brew pub, it's legal. Or if you're getting it from a bar that does not sell liquor, they can do growlers. Of course, in Texas, it's very hard for a bar to survive without liquor sales.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. So Dan, you were at quite a big beer festival this past weekend. So I wanted to make sure you had a chance to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
You had some
Um,
high praise to talk. It sounded like.
oh yeah. This is it right here. This is
Great taste of the Midwest.
Oh my God. It was. I had never been. The short story is that every year, I guess our club has gotten tickets through the old treasurer. The old treasurer kind of when it got out of the club, I got in, and he was looking to kind of maybe pass the torch along as far as getting this event organized, because it's not just a couple of people who go every year; it's a 45 ticket allotment that we get. So basically, I ordered the bus, got tickets for everybody. When people started dropping out, found new people to get tickets for the people who couldn't go anymore. So first thing we do is we get on the bus, and it's already a party. I actually brought a flight of Thomas Hardy's, 1998 or 99, forget which, 2003 and 2005. And
you brought that, or you?
Yeah, I brought that. And,
Wow.
and a bottle of Sweet Repute, which is Founder's wheat wine that they released in 2013 that had been aged in the maple bourbon barrels. And
Is that what you bought on my at the bachelor party?
no, actually, Swan bought a bunch, but I had bought it just before we went because they had released it back in I think November or December. So I'd gotten a bottle when it had first come out. So anyway, that's pretty much the way it was the whole way there, is that everybody's bought the whales. It's just the whale bus. And so we get there, we park, kind of sitting around. They line everybody up, they let everybody in, get the glasses in this holding area, and then the bullhorn sounds, and we all go in. The first place that I come to is Goose Island, and they have opened, and they do not have a line for the Bourbon County brand coffee stout. So the first thing I do is jump over the ropes and grab a Bourbon County coffee stout. And that was just the first. I ended up getting their vanilla rye, and their proprietors as well, because they were pouring that stuff. And I walked right up too. I just again jumped over the ropes. The rush had already died down.
How was the proprietors this year? Or this past year? Because I had a bottle of the original, and that was the one with the chunks
The coconut
in it. But this one with like flavoring. I know that the coconut chunks weren't supposedly in this last one, right?
No, this one had like coconut. I want to say coconut milk in it or something like that. But it also had like a sugar and cinnamon, or like a bark that was like cinnamon bark. And maybe cocoa nibs or something like that. I don't know. It was probably the best beer. That and the vanilla rye were probably the two of the best beers I had there, if not the two best beers that I had at the whole thing. And that was saying something, because there was a ton of great beers. Everybody was bringing it like that. I mean, Shorts was there. I got their key lime pie, but they also had like their bourbon barrel aged stout, and then like another one with it was like a Thai something or other, so Thai milk stout or something like that. And they had an entire tent devoted to real ales, and so these were all.
Cool.
Oh my God! And again, the one that I got there first was the what was it? The Bready White, by who did Off Color. So it was like a Belgian pale with Brett in it, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, it was. I think it came out to be 188 breweries, over 1,000 beers. So there was no way you could taste it all, and there was no way that you could. There was almost no way you could get a bad beer unless you were just going to say, you know what, I don't need a good beer right now. I'm going to go find whatever I don't like. That's about it. And it was like that it started at 1 o'clock, and then they shut it down at 6 o'clock, I want to say. But they also had a tent that was devoted to like these seminars, and we got the last one, which was chocolate and beer pairings. Actually, Goose Island had done cheese and beer the first time. They had they had three of these seminars. The second seminar was beer cocktails, and so the third one was beer and chocolate pairings. And I mean, the chocolate was great. I don't know if the pairings are necessarily all that much. It kind of, you got the impression that these people had gotten together the Monday before and was like, well, let's see what we like, and just started taking beers and matching it up with chocolate. But
these are the things I like about these beer festivals, and it's not only a good to drink beer, but also good to get a good education on what beer is, and for people who are still stuck with the the BMCs, it's good to sit there and get educated, know about these beers, taste these beers, see for yourself. You get familiar with them. You start to like, and maybe you might. I'm not saying you're gonna overnight kind of convert to to these beers, but at least you'll get to say, you know what? Instead of buying Budweiser, let me give this Southern Tier a try. Let me give this this beer from Fairhope Brewery Company a try. Let me give this beer from Goose Island. Let me try something else besides what's out there. And I think these beer festivals and even wine festivals the same way. It gets you to say, there are other things out there you can taste and try and sample, and that also is not going to hurt your pocketbook as well too. So
right. No, I would absolutely agree with that. I think this one is a little bit different in that you definitely do have several different types of beer festivals. One is a very specialized, like the Festival of Barrel-Aged Beers, or in Chicago, is very specific about the kind of beers they're bringing. That's not really for someone who's coming in to see what kind of beers they like. That's for people who are sort of like, I like barrel-aged beers. I'm a connoisseur of barrel-aged beers. I really want to kind of see who's bringing it. This was probably in the same broad classification, the Great Taste, in the sense that, you did have a few, people bringing amber ales and and a lot of IPAs, of course, but really the focus was sort of like what's the stuff that people aren't really going to be able to get their hands on usually, and that's what they were bringing to the fest. Whereas a lot of festivals here say that you go to, you'll see more breweries putting out stuff like you're saying to kind of give a range of this is what beer is capable of doing that you may not have been aware of. For the people who know, we also have a few other beers here that kind of extend your. So this one, I mean, it was just huge. It's 6,000 people. It's right in downtown Madison on the lakes. So you couldn't ask. It's sort of like, I was trying to figure out a way to describe it, and I think, and Mike would probably appreciate this. It's sort of like beer under glass meets a slightly smaller. GBF, in the sense that whether you go to this one or the Great American Beer Festival, there's no way you're going to try all the beers in either one of them, sort of thing. There's just no way. You'll never get to the end of either one. The biggest difference is that this one is outdoors and in a nice setting.
It's cool. Speaking of Skylar, are you guys trying to get into GABF this year, or are you kind of waiting until next year, or is that something that you're even interested in?
It's getting down to the wire, and we've gotten so busy just trying to keep up with demand. I think the deadline to submit beers is like later this month, and I'm too busy with other stuff to worry about it this year.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of other local festivals. We're still really, really small. So I'm not gonna worry about GABF. I'd like to go eventually, but that's one of the things I've always said is that being in the industry now, I go to beer events less and less because I have to constantly brew beer. So it sucks. But eventually it's going to get to the point to where I'll have people make beer for me, and then I'll be going to those events.
Do they rotate the Great American Beer Festival? Do they rotate different cities, or is it just one location?
It's always in Denver.
Always Denver.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been there once. It was like 5 years ago. It's hands down the best fest I've ever been to.
Everyone says that. Everybody says that. I know.
It's amazing. And not only that, it's like after outside of the festival, I mean, Denver is just a huge beer town anyway. So like all the restaurants are bringing it, all the bars. Like there's a really good craft beer bar out there called the Falling Rock.
Yeah.
And it was like every hour they're throwing out a new release of something. They're tapping something new, and you go there and you just geek out about like every beer celebrity that you can think of that's there. You recognize brewers, you recognize YouTubers. There's I saw all the guys from New Brew Thursday. I saw the guys from there were so many different YouTube shows. I mean, it was like 5 years ago, so I can't remember everybody, but I ran into like the beer goddess from Portland, Oregon. She used to do a radio show called Beer O'Clock that I used to listen to on podcasts. Like I back then I was doing an audio podcast, and I interviewed Fred from New Holland Brewing along with Ashley Routson, the beer wench, because they did like a collaboration beer. So I interviewed them, and it was just really cool. Like we went to the Falling Rock and did the interview there, but the place is just packed, and there's just beers everywhere. Like the food is there is amazing, and there's just Denver's just a cool city. It's fun to go there on a regular basis, but when the beer is flowing as excitingly as it is during that weekend, it's the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not gone to the Great Taste of Midwest, and that's another one that I've always wanted to go. I've heard it's great, so maybe in a year or two I'll be able to make that one.
I would aim for next year because it's the 30th anniversary of it.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
I may have to make it out to that one.
I know a guy who can get you tickets.
I'd like to go to Fobab this year if that was even possible, but who knows what I'm going to be able to do towards the end of this year. But I do love Fobab. That's the festival of barrel-aged beers that Dan was mentioning before. That's like you said, that's pretty specific. That's all barrel-aged stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, speaking of beer celebrities, there was I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fred Eckhart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw that.
Heard that name before.
He's very popular in the Portland, Oregon beer circles, but he's a beer writer. He he wrote the back in the late 80s. He wrote the Essentials of Beer Style. So he was like a beer writer, historian, beer critic, and all that stuff. But there was a lot of good stuff on the Full Pint from a lot of breweries, some in Portland, but man, I'm looking at this and there's a lot of people that love that dude. I think it was like 89 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was. I know I saw him when I was at GABF that year. That was one of the people that I remember seeing. So that was kind of a sad thing that we lost him this week. Any other beer news that you guys might have seen? I was trying to see, flip through any of the stories. I do see some things popping up. And when I was at the beer store the other day, I noticed everyone's already bringing their Oktoberfests and pumpkin beers. I mean, we added the pumpkin beer to the wheel last week just in time because they're all over the place now. It's crazy.
I had asked a question about that. Is it better to have those Oktoberfest or those sort of those specialty type fall beers, seasonal beers? Is it better to have it ice cold or between like 40 or 50 degrees, temperature? Those Oktoberfests, those winter, fall style beers.
I would say you never want your beer ice cold, just because you're losing flavor when you do that with any style. That's my opinion, and I think that's kind of pretty known. That's just what I would think, because when your beer warms up a little bit, especially if you like stouts, the way you were talking about them before, if you like those are great beers to like have a couple sips, let it sit for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and hold it in your hands like this, get it warmed up a little bit, and you'll get a lot more out of those beers when you bring the temperature up a little bit.
Okay.
I find that pumpkin beers are very much like that. I actually like to get them pretty cold just so I can see what it tastes like and then let it warm up over time because there's such a huge difference. There's so much layering behind pumpkin beers, and I think that's why you've got such a big division between people who love pumpkin beers and hate pumpkin beers. Is that there's so much layering of flavors, and then it's like, what kind of pumpkin beer is it? And as far as Marsden Oktoberfest style, I like mine anywhere between say 43 and 55 degrees.
Okay.
I'm excited for that because I'm a big fall guy. Even outside of beer, fall's probably my favorite season. But I'm excited. Even though Oktoberfest and pumpkin beers are not my favorite style, I look forward to them every year. It's just it's fun to kind of switch it up a little bit and drink something a little different. But I'm excited. I mean, I'm not ready to start drinking them yet until it's late September, early October. But but they're out there now, and there's a ton of them. I mean, there was like stacks of like all different choices. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, I saw it at my beer store the other day. I was like, really? Those are the ones I don't buy because it's like it's more the marketing thing. It's like me, I don't make my pumpkin beer until I have ripe pumpkins to make it with. And that's when you've got something cool. I'm actually brewing my Oktoberfest next week, so it should be ready by that time.
Homebrew or at the brewery?
At the brewery. It's something I've homebrewed for many years, and I finally get to let people like try it, so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
But same thing with the pumpkin beer. Yeah, I'm just so glad that there's going to be other seasons. I guess for you guys, for Texas, it's either summer or it's not quite summer. And right now it is very much summer. I was standing in front of a hot brew kettle for 7 hours and 110 degrees. And it was not
Sounds
fun.
like here in Alabama.
You feel me? It's too damn hot outside. It's oppressively hot. And right now for everyone, I'm brewing all the lighter kind of fruit beers and things like that. And I'll brew what people want to drink, but that's not really my style. So I can't wait to start getting into like the fall and winter beers and letting people know, check this out. This is something that I like.
Yeah.
Well, especially with the winter beers, I mean, I know with like at least the American stouts, you're talking about a 2-month lead time on that just for conditioning. Really. Oh. Now, if you're going impy stout or barley wine, you're talking like a 6-month lead up, right? So I mean, like, have you brewed some of those already, or is this going to be sort of like?
No. As a matter of fact, it's something where, we're still really new, as I said before, and I'm going to start brewing those beers that are going to take a year.
Yeah.
Like this year, so that next year I'll have them.
Yeah. Yep.
But for this year, I will have some pretty special things, really special things that I'm excited to share with people, but I can't quite talk about yet.
Understood.
What kind of capacity do you have to store those types of beers for that long? Do you
see? That's always the issue with a small brewery, and why you see a lot of craft breweries not do lagers, especially because lagers take so long and you have to store them for so long, and that's space that could be taken up by beers that could have come and gone by then. Thankfully, we're on like 9 acres of land, so we have a pretty good amount of space, and we're working on a second building that we're just getting electricity into. So we have a second cold room built in there, and I'll have way more space for things like that, hopefully by the end of the year.
That's awesome. So what's the coldest it gets by you guys? I mean, in the wintertime, do you guys experience anything close to...
Oh, yeah. Hell, we have these weird... Actually, I make a winter warmer, and I named it after something I always say about Texas is we get about 1 week of winter. So it's the 1 week of winter ale. And you never
About the
know.
same in Alabama. The 10 days of winter we get here too.
You never know when it's going to happen. It'll happen like, late October. It could happen like way later. You never know.
All right.
But I look forward to it.
Nice.
We get 6 months of it. We get a 3-month long summer, and then everything else is either all 6 months of winter, or maybe like a month of fall and a month of spring.
I would much prefer that.
Yeah.
Come on, North.
You say that.
I'm a fall guy. I'm a fall guy too.
I wouldn't live here if I didn't love it. I don't mind the snow. The thing I hate about snow is just the driving in it. If I didn't have to do that, bring it. I don't care.
It's kind of that love-hate thing I have with me. My home state back in New Jersey. I was just up there. The summers, I was up there. It was hot, but it wasn't humid. It was like perfect. At nighttime, sitting outside with my dad, I'm having a beer, perfect. But down here, that humidity, it'll hit you.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get that way up there in New Jersey too. My grandparents lived out in Philadelphia, and I remember being out there in summers. And actually, where Wildwood Crest is, down near Cape May.
Yes.
Yeah, I've spent a couple of weeks one summer out there too, and I remember there were days when it was like soup. It just got soupy.
Yes.
But that's the whole thing. Yeah, it's not like constant though. It's just like you'll get the few days, and then it'll be okay again. Yeah.
Love Wildwood, by the way. Wildwood is really nice. I wouldn't mind vacationing there again. I'll take that over Atlantic City anytime.
Oh God, yeah. God, yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, probably a good time to spin the wheel here. We added pumpkin beers last week. Do we not? Do we want to put anything else on here? Do we want to add Oktoberfest or anything that's seasonal coming up, or any styles that we haven't really kind of dove into?
Well, the seasonals in my area probably will start coming probably within like the first week of September, or middle September. So I'm probably going to get any of them right away. So
you might be surprised.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll look.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw something specific your way. Beer with pecans in it. Pecan brewed beer. I've got one coming up next week, so I can always use mine. You guys.
No, I just got it actually because we just did nut beers.
We did.
And I think I got one with pecans in it. That heavy pedal.
Oh yeah.
And I just got another bottle of that, so maybe I'll have to get a second one because I keep on wanting to age it. Dude, I can't age it if I have to put it on the show.
So we're going nut specific.
Nut specific.
What were you gonna say, Skylar?
I've had a lot of good pecan beers recently, and I just love pecans.
I don't think I've ever had a pecan beer that I can remember. I'm sure I have, and I'm not thinking of it. I've drank a lot of beers in the past decade, but...
Have you ever had this category on the wheel? Beers you hate.
No, we have not.
No.
We could do like a Bizarro episode where we drink the beer and tell everyone why you hate it so freaking much.
Oh God, I'd have to find Rhinelander somehow. If they still make it.
I've got a couple I could think of for that already. All right, let's spin this guy and see where the wheel go. It has not appeared yet. I like that idea though. I mean, I'd have to probably pick a pepper beer because.
Hey, you haven't had my pepper beer yet.
No, again, I have found a couple that I really do like, so it's not something that.
Yeah, but you're right. There are some pepper beers that are god awful.
Like, I mean, I remember the first beer I ever poured out was probably the Rogue Chipotle Ale.
Oh yeah.
And God.
See, that's when things are going just a little too far, right there.
I mean, there are some that are good, but I just did not like that one. I don't know. It's been, like I said, probably 10 years since I've had it, but I'd have to go back and give another review, and this is probably the show to do it. That episode would be the one to do it on. So
yeah, exactly.
All right,
All
so
right.
let's spin this guy. We got a drum roll going. We have landed on
ESB.
Bob? Oh, ESV.
ESB.
There we go.
Interesting.
All right.
All right, we'll do
That's
that.
one of my styles right there.
ESB European style beers.
Extra
No.
special bitter.
It's
Okay.
it's an English style. It's basically a pale ale, English
Okay.
style pale ale. So,
Okay. Okay.
They're out there. There's a bunch of
I'm
them.
Oh
excited.
yes.
ESBs. That's ooh.
yeah. That's
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure to let everyone know that might not have made it this week. I know Kevin couldn't make it, but he'll probably join us next week, so I'll let him know. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. We will see you next week. Depending on whether or not I'm at the hospital, who knows? It's kind of a crapshoot for the next few weeks, so we'll see. But we'll plan for next week to drink ESBs, and we will see you at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, like we do every Wednesday. Thank you guys for anyone who watches. We do have a handful of people who do watch us every week when I post these, so I want to thank you guys. Feel free to post comments, anything you want us to talk about, or any styles that you might want us to throw on the wheel. I want you guys to feel a little bit more involved. So post some comments on YouTube or send us an email at podcast.condition@gmail.com. And like I said, we'll see you guys next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time with ESBs. Cheers.
Good night,
Cheers.
guys.
Cheers.
Good night.